I've been coming here, I think, probably for the last 5 years or so, talking about how we were going to be doing a change in the way we sold fishing and hunting licenses. The message this year is a little bit different than the last 5 years because we are making the change this year. It's actually up and running in a pilot system, and I'm going to actually run you through a demonstration of some of that here today. So if you want to give the next slide. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of background on the project for those of you who haven't had to cycle through me the last few years when I've been here. Talk about our contractor, the company that's doing it, a company called Active Outdoors. Give you a little update on the status of the project. Talk about what's different between the way we sell fishing and hunting licenses right now and the way we'll be doing it next year when the new system is fully implemented. And then finally give you a demonstration of two pieces of the system. One piece is the revamped website, and I think the really important thing that you'll want to see is how we deal with non-resident anglers and hunters. As you're aware of right now, non-resident anglers and hunters could not access the internet site, could not buy licenses electronically. That has changed. That's now available for them. And non-resident anglers can even get their first outdoors card using the internet site. So it's a lot more open, a lot more accessible than it was before. So what are we doing? Basically, we're automating the sale of fishing and hunting licenses at license issuers on the internet and using our 1-800 telephone service. And this is the same thing that probably 40 of the states in the U.S. have done in the past. So this isn't something new. Something a lot of other people have done a long time ago. We're also changing some of our business practices and processes. First of all, to meet government policy, because we weren't following all the rules, which is not good. And secondly, to take advantage of the automated system. And one of the real challenges that we've had all along working with our staff is they wanted to automate the old way of doing businesses. So rather than taking advantage of all of the things that the new system could give, because you're so locked into doing things a certain way, you keep thinking about automating all of those old processes. So we've had a real struggle getting our staff to recognize some of the advantages that might be there. And then we've made some regulation changes to accommodate new license forms, the non-resident outdoors card, all of those kinds of things. Because when you're doing that, you want to make sure whatever you issue is actually legal. We don't want to get your customers in trouble through no fault of their own. So why are we doing it? Well, we're looking at three main things. First of all, to provide better customer service. So I mentioned the non-resident access to electronic service channels, both the internet and IVR. Faster fulfillment of outdoors cards. That right now, if you buy a paper license, you may get your outdoors card in 3 months, if you're lucky. If you're a non-resident hunter, it may be even longer than that. With the new system, we should be able to send them out in 2 weeks. I actually did the first transaction through the pilot system, and I got my outdoors card in about 8 days, 8 business days. So it's much faster. And better license availability. Because it's all electronic, because it's printed on demand, because we don't have to ship license forms out to issuers, any issuer should be able to sell any license if they want, because it's all built into the system. It's all electronic and it's printed on demand. So that means that somebody in Thunder Bay could actually sell a turkey license if they wanted to and they had a customer that wanted to buy it. We didn't do that in the past when you had to ship licenses up there because they may sell one turkey license every 2 years kind of thing. It's a more efficient operation on both sides. We're able to eliminate paper licenses and forms. So on our side, we're getting rid of the printing, the storage, the reconciliation, the inventorying, all of those pieces. On your side, you're getting rid of having to store them, having to reconcile them, having to maintain them for 3 years under the regulation, because that won't be needed. That stuff will be maintained in the system. There'll also be a different revenue collection system, which will be more efficient on our end. It also meets the requirements of the Office of the Provincial Controller. And we were actually criticized by the auditor for the way we were collecting our licensing revenues. So that's something we had to do that. It will also provide all of us with better information. So the license sales are recorded in real time in the system. That's actually printed on the license. All of the license sales are recorded in the system. So right now, if you sell a one-year sticker, we don't know that it's sold except that there's that many of them sold a year. Now we'll know one-year licenses, one-day licenses. All of that will be available in the system. So it gives our enforcement people better information. It gives your customers better information. And one of the side advantages that I've been talking to our good friend Mr. Grayston about is we now have a database with over 300,000 non-resident anglers and hunters that can be used for marketing purposes. So there's a real valuable resource there that we built up over the last couple of years because of the non-resident outdoors card. And it's when we get to the new system, that information will be really accessible. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question on, what if the customer doesn't want his name on a database that's going to be given out?
When I run through the demonstration, I'll actually show you, because they get the choice of selecting whether they want to get mail based on that. So if they don't, and it's a positive default system, so if they don't say they want it, then we assume that's a negative answer. It's not like the old, what was it, was it telephone or, yeah, the negative option billing, where if you didn't say no, you got it anyway. We can't do that. So I'll show you in the demonstration when I go through the internet.
Just another quick question too.
Sure.
What if the customer forgets their already issued outdoor card?
And I will show that in the demonstration. What we've done is we built in a search functionality into the system. So if you enter your first name, last name, date of birth, and your postal code, it will search for your record. So even if you don't remember you have a record in the system, if you enter that, it will pull your record up. It will pull up that you have an outdoors card. It will pull up the expiry date, and it will give you a menu of those things that you're entitled to.
Okay, so you're stating postal code.
Yes.
They don't have postal codes.
Zip codes?
They have zip codes,
Well,
but sometimes crossing the border, you try and enter a Canadian postal code that they say is going to work in their system, and you work with your Canadian postal code, and it doesn't match, it doesn't work. So is that going to be an issue?
No, it isn't, because once you select non-Canadian resident, it then reverts to the 5-digit zip code. And if you have a 9-digit zip code, it only reads the first 5 digits anyway. So we built that in so you have either option. However, if you come from Malawi, they don't have postal codes, so we probably will have trouble issuing a license through the system. I think last year we didn't have anybody from Malawi buy a license, so we're probably okay.
What with Europeans?
Pardon me?
With European tourists?
It will work the same way. We will just read the first 5 characters or digits of whatever postal code they have. And as far as we can ascertain, Malawi is the only country in the world that doesn't have some sort of postal code. But there may be others I've missed. So basically we've tried to build all of that in so that we can accommodate pretty well everybody that does buy licenses here. The other thing that the enforcement people are really happy about is we can now actually enforce suspensions. When you had paper licenses, because it was about 3 months between the time you actually bought the paper license to the time it got entered in the system, a lot of people were getting away with hunting or fishing on suspension because we just couldn't track them. So that's done as well. So what's the status of it? The licensing automation system went live September the 7th, 2011. We just got it in before the freeze for the election, thank God, on the internet and IVR, because those were the first pieces that were ready to go. We initially went live and pilot at about 10 Service Ontario counters the week later, September the 14th, and live at outside issuers, so you kind of folks, on September the 28th. And there's about 20 outside issuers that are piloting for us throughout the province. The pilot will be complete this Friday, so that's when we're going to evaluate and just make sure everything is running the way we want it to. And then the rollout to year-round issuers will begin after the pilot completion. So we're going to be doing the rollout in 2 phases. The first phase will be to year-round operations, and then the second phase, which will start next spring, will be to most of you folks, the seasonal operations. And the reason we're doing it that way is, first of all, we don't want to send equipment out that's not going to be used for 6 months or so. And secondly, we want to have the training happen as close to when you're actually going to use the equipment as we possibly can. So we will be organizing the schedule for seasonal issuers based on when you're back to your business and when you're back in operation to try and accommodate that. So what's different? Well, I already mentioned the access to electronic services that we've now expanded that to non-residents so that they can do that. In terms of hunter accreditation for non-residents, prior to getting the non-resident outdoors card, that was annually, so they had to bring up an expired license every year that they came up here to hunt. Now it's retained in the database. It's on their outdoors card just like a resident, so they don't have to do that anymore because it's held on the outdoors card. In terms of licenses, currently it's pre-printed forms. You have to reconcile them. For a lot of people, there's a lot of paperwork involved there. If you lose them, that's a real problem as well. We'll be going to a print-on-demand system, so it will all be tracked in the system. So the only inventory you will get is the license paper that comes with the machines. You won't have to worry about tracking and reconciling and inventorying licenses. In terms of revenue reconciliation, right now it's a monthly manual process for both issuers and for M&R. We will be automating that through the system. You will get daily reports out of the system that tell you what you sold, how much what the total should be so you can reconcile against your cash register. You'll be getting bi-weekly reports that tell you what will be swept from your bank account. It's not nearly as fast as Mel told me last night at the bar. If you want to hear Mel's system, he'll tell you because I'm not going to repeat it. But you'll get bi-weekly reports. What will happen is, the way it works is you'll get the report on the Tuesday morning. The bank sweep will happen on the Friday morning. So if there are errors in the report or anything, there's 3 days to correct it and address it. We've been doing sweeps for outside issuers through the pilot. We've done 2 so far. There's been no problems to date. It's worked fine. So that system seems to be working as well. In terms of business rules, right now your business rules are all in that manual of instruction. And that's the Bible that you have to follow. In the new system, most of the business rules are built into the system. It's actually enforcing things so that it should be easier for you to train staff. It should be easier for them to issue licenses without making mistakes. There still will be a manual of instruction, but it will be for those other processes you have to do. If you have to collect a declaration, get a signature, that sort of thing, the manual of instruction will cover those kinds of exceptions. The other thing you'll get, and I did bring a rough copy of it, is you will get a manual that explains how to use the equipment. And it's a fairly detailed manual that goes step by step, how to set it up, how to use it, gives you the support numbers, all of those kinds of things that are involved in the system. So basically those are the big changes.